If you haven't read Robert Kolker's New York Times article, Who is the Bad Art Friend? Then where have you been? My boyfriend sent me the article after the story blew up on Twitter. I am not one to have the attention span to read a 5,000-word article, but it is just so juicy and bizarre. I read until the end, completely enraptured by the drama. What is so appealing about this piece for me is that both people are shitty. No one is 100% in the right, which of course makes for a great read when the main characters are flawed. What's more, or worse, is that I can see myself in both of them, in both of their shitty attributes. I have totally been the Sonya. 5 years ago, after being inspired by the podcast a friend told me about, Night Vale, I wrote a one-act play about radio Foley actors. I workshopped it for months, having multiple friends read my lines and give me feedback. In particular, I sent several iterations of the play to my best friend at the time. I'll refer to her as Dora. I remember filling out the form at the library to submit the play to a regional competition and writing Dora's name with mine. She objected, saying it was my work, she only helped to polish it. I insisted on including her. We were best friends, and if I climbed the ladder, I was going to bring her with me. The play won first place and production, and when the characters couldn't be cast for lack of auditions, Dora and I ended up starring in it as well. Our names appeared together on the promotional flyers and on the award. The following year, I wrote another one-act play based on a writing prompt a friend sent me. I workshopped it on my own without Dora's feedback, but still wrote her name on the submission form. This time she insisted her name not be included. She hadn't had a part in writing it after all. I still insisted on including her though. Even if she hadn't polished this piece, I wanted to be a writing team, which meant our names appeared together. It won second place that year, and production. The following summer, our friendship fell apart and we both have our sides of the story for why that happened. Shortly after, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I uprooted my life to be with him on the other side of the country, and I deeply, deeply didn't care about anything else, especially Dora's bullshit. In December last year, less than a year after my father passed away, I received an angry email from Dora saying she wanted the rights to the plays, quote-unquote, we had written, quote-unquote, together. That I had been listing them in my bios as if I wrote them myself, and that was fraud. She had the contracts from the play productions listing her name as co-author, and she'd hate to take legal action against me. I wrote back saying she could have the sole rights to the plays and that I would take them off my resume completely. I'm sure this shocked her. My writing practice had evolved from the time I wrote those stepping stone pieces. I stopped writing plays and started writing poetry. Dozens of my poems had seen publication by the time Dora's email arrived in my inbox, and I was working on curating a full-length collection dedicated to my father. I could not give a flying fuck about some of my earliest writing that actually wasn't very good. The reason why they placed it all in this annual contest was because there was very little competition. It was low-hanging fruit. I can imagine I felt a lot like Sonya feels now. This person who has not spent the last 2 years working her ass off like I had, who knows she has no claim to the work I wrote, is trying to defame me and assert she is entitled to whatever benefits I was receiving from these plays. The difference here is that my plays aren't good, and there was exactly zero benefit. I wasn't headlining some writers' festival. I wasn't receiving reviews. No one made an audiobook version of the piece. The plays were dead weight on my CV, and I had no problem purging them from my life. I had moved on. I don't even write plays anymore. The other difference was I didn't actually take any of Dora's writing and incorporate it into my work. My play was not about Dora's life and did not turn her likeness into a villain. It didn't include a dog whistle that Sonya, in my opinion, intentionally placed in the piece to mock and taunt Dawn. My response telling Dora she could have the sole rights didn't satisfy her, though, as I'm sure Dawn will not feel satisfied with any reply she gets from Sonya. Dora wrote back again, reiterating her previous statement that I was a fraud. And I lost my mind. If you actually were willing to put in the work needed to climb the ladder yourself, then you wouldn't laughably threaten legal action to get your name on my work because you'd already have a portfolio of your own work written in the last 2 years that you're proud of. If you would like to put your name on my old work that I wrote and that you quote unquote polished and claim it as your own, then do it. If you're that desperate for recognition or quote unquote portfolio building because you rather have credit for work you didn't write instead of putting the effort into writing new and better things on your own and developing your own craft, then I feel sorry for you and you'll never find the success you're looking for in writing. But that's none of my business, and I won't fight you. I won't take quote unquote legal action because I don't care. Not about the plays or what you do with your life or what you do with the plays. You are the one who will have to live constantly worried about people finding out that my work is not yours and that you were the quote-unquote polisher and not the writer. I don't have that worry because even if you quote-unquote took legal action, with what money, I have no idea, and with what lawyer who would give a shit to take on a case that has exactly zero financial value attached to it, I have no idea. And even if I lost and people actually cared, and on the front page of the newspaper, a huge headline said, "Writer, huge fraud," I wouldn't care because I know the truth and I have my work and the education I sought and the years of work I have obviously put into developing my craft to speak for me. Just like you have your lack of work and the education you never sought and the years of work you have not put into developing your craft to speak for you. What was Dora really seeking, though? Did she see the progress I was making in writing and feel jealous that she was not achieving as much or at all? Did she want to also feel like she was making progress even though she hadn't put in the effort at all to make herself a better writer? I can see Sonya's perspective. If Dawn wanted to write the story, she should have. And she's maybe jealous that Sonya has the success that she feels should be hers. I haven't heard from Dora since my last email, and I hope I never do. I can imagine, though, if she did take my work, put her name on it, and submit it to some competition and it won, and it received considerable attention and it launched her career as a playwright, I would probably go insane and become the Dawn. I have totally been the Dawn. The aspect of the story that I empathize with most on the part of Dawn was her feeling of betrayal. I understand the feeling of being surprised that someone I thought was my friend actually had no respect for me at all and deeply didn't care about me. The shock it causes is disorienting. The day my dad was referred to hospice, I received a cold email from my landlord telling me I was being evicted. The lease clearly stated I was not allowed to use the upstairs of the space, and her boyfriend, upon visiting the property, saw I had items stored there. I had 7 days to remove my belongings from the premises, even though I was over 2,000 miles away caring for my dying father, and she knew that. Luckily, the guy subletting was willing to take possession of all the furniture left behind, and my partner at the time was able to go and pack up all the rest of my belongings and store them at his house. To make matters worse, my landlord announced she was going to keep my security deposit for quote-unquote damages incurred by my belongings and as a quote-unquote storage fee. Again, I lost my mind. I couldn't believe this person that I got coffee with, who I participated in charity events with, whose house I went to for a murder mystery night, was treating me this way. Why the venom? My father was dying. Didn't she care? I didn't understand. After my father passed away and I returned home, I began the process of taking her to court. The judge suggested we go to mediation, and we did. The mediator asked us if we had been friends prior to this conflict. I said yes, at the same time she said no. I was flabbergasted. She presented quote-unquote evidence that I was trying to ruin her reputation in town, that I had ruined her friendships because of my lies. She told the mediator that I wrote a scathing letter about her and BCC'd a bunch of people, which is a complete lie. I wrote an email to 2 mutual friends that I spent time with outside of my friendship with my landlord, explaining my side of the story and why I wasn't going to be friends with them anymore. neither person she worked with professionally, and no one else was BCC'd on it. She went on to explain when I originally moved into the space, I had accused her of cheating me and called her inconsiderate. When I first moved into the condo, I didn't realize I wasn't allowed to use the upstairs. When I learned this, I asked her if I was essentially paying her mortgage. She said yes, so I asked her if I could pay an amount that equated to the ratio of square footage I was allowed to use. She responded cordially, saying no, and I had considered it settled. Her responses were never aggressive, and I looked through those emails after our hearing, and like I remember, I never accused her of anything or called her any kind of name. I simply asked the question because the answer is no to every unasked question. I had nothing to lose, or so I thought. If her answer was no, then it was no. I never thought about it again, and never thought our friendship had ended because of it. And then I realized when I wrote to her and her boyfriend, who managed the property while she was away at grad school, telling them that my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and asked if I could sublet the apartment while I was away caring for him, that my landlord never responded. Her boyfriend responded saying it would be fine to sublet, but that he would like to talk to the person first. But my landlord never wrote me, never said, "Wow, I'm so sorry," nothing. She never sent me any kind of acknowledgement or condolence because she had stopped considering us friends and just deeply didn't care about me or the fact that my father was dying. And she deeply didn't care that I was 2,000 miles away caring for him in hospice when a few of my belongings were taking up space in her upstairs. I feel like my father's illness and death is like Dawn's kidney donation. I cannot stop talking about it. My life basically revolves around this event, but people are sick of hearing about it now, and I cannot understand how the people in my life, particularly those I considered my friends, my close friends, could not give a shit. I obsessed over the betrayal I felt. It was all I talked about at therapy, and in fact, it occasionally keeps me up at night still. I ruminate over my landlord, someone I considered a friend, never acknowledging my father's illness and having absolutely no empathy whatsoever because of a very minor disagreement where she did not even indicate she was jarred by my question. I lost friends because they took her side and thought I was this huge monster for taking her to court. I can see how Dawn's court case is less about the compensation and more about the validation that what Sonya did was wrong. Not only should Sonya not have done what she did, but more importantly, she shouldn't have hurt Dawn the way she did. In hindsight, I see too that my court case was less about the money and more that I wanted someone else, someone in authority, to tell my former landlord that what she did was wrong. Maybe then she'd believe it. The difference here is I never sought opportunities to confront my former landlord. I never appeared and still never appear anywhere I think she might be. When a mutual friend was having a birthday get-together, I asked him if my landlord was going to be there. He said yes, and I didn't attend. I don't want to see her. I am not going to show up to a virtual conference that I know she's speaking at. If she shows up to somewhere I am, even by chance, I will leave. Not only because I don't want this uncompassionate asshole in my psyche, but also because it is creepy as fuck to go out of your way to loom. And I can imagine if my former landlord showed up to a workshop I was leading or a panel I was speaking on, I would feel enormously creeped out by that as well. What I think Dawn doesn't understand. 2 things. 1, being an asshole isn't illegal. What Sonya did was mean. It was. I personally don't understand the venom from Sonya about Dawn's kidney donation. If Dawn talked about it too much or made too much of a deal about it, perhaps that's obnoxious, but it's not particularly offensive. There was no need to mock her the way that she did, and using the letter in her story was fucked up. Sonya even admits that she copied it verbatim because it was just so good. She intentionally used it even though she knew it was wrong to do so. And even though she changed it a little bit, it was still mean. I 100% believe she included the quote-unquote kindly as a call out to Dawn. It was something that Dawn and everyone who knew Dawn would recognize. I think she did that intentionally to taunt her, and that is mean, to say the least. But being an asshole, unfortunately, is not against the law in most cases. When I shared this story with my sister, she said, Dawn is a psychopath who's going to end up killing Sonya after obsessing over her. I think she has come down from this extreme view, but still felt like, get over it. The world isn't fair. Like, you're the villain in someone else's story. Newsflash. Which are valid points. We are all the villain in someone else's story. I am the villain in Dora's and my former landlord stories, perhaps, and there's nothing I want to do about it because I don't care if people I don't have respect for think I'm the villain. So maybe Dawn just has to accept that some people are assholes, and it sucks. 2. Revenge isn't going to make Dawn feel better. My mother always told me that success was the best revenge, which is good and bad. I never in my life tried to do something violent or malicious against someone in retaliation. I always just tried to be successful so that it could be rubbed in the other person's face. On the flip side of that, if I fail at something, I have this internal feeling that not only did I fail, but my enemies have won because of my failure. Not great, Mom. But here's the thing. Even when I'm successful, it doesn't heal the hurt. In 2015, when an ex-girlfriend and I broke up, P.S. to this day, that ex-girlfriend holds the title of the most emotionally abusive person I have ever dated. I started directing a production of The Vagina Monologues. A number of her friends were in the play, so I knew she'd be in the audience. I was playing the woman who loved to make vaginas happy, a lesbian dominatrix sex worker. I picked out a very sexy outfit to wear and was dead set on nailing my performance. For the months leading up to the production, I did not eat a single carb and was at the gym every day. And it paid off. I looked smoking hot. Not only that, but I had started dating a new person who was also in the production. They played My Angry Vagina, and they were incredible. I felt so proud that this talented performer was my new boo. At the end of the play, after totally killing it on stage, my co-producer and I held a talk-back session. Because my character demonstrates all of the different kinds of sexual moans that women make during her monologue, a person in the audience asked me what kind of moan I made. I answered, and my new boo interrupted to put their 2 cents in from their personal experience. I couldn't have been more elated that that had happened in front of my ex. I looked smoking hot, my production was a raving success, and it was clear that I had moved on in a new relationship with a new, sexy, and talented person. My plan for revenge through success couldn't have possibly gone better. Then when I woke up the next morning, I realized I didn't feel any better. Succeeding in my revenge, even beyond my wildest dreams, didn't actually heal the hurt my ex caused. I still felt like absolute shit because of her. Likewise, I imagine that even if Dawn wins in the court and she succeeds in whatever her mission is, when she wakes up in the morning, she's not going to feel any better. She was still betrayed. She was still hurt. She still has to live with the painful reality that not just one person, but many people she thought were her friends didn't actually give a shit about her at all. Someone will still have succeeded in their career by humiliating her. Those feelings aren't going to go away with a successful court case. I feel like all this attention that is coming to this story is Dawn's way of trying to get other people to tell Sonya what she did was wrong. Maybe if enough people are telling her, Sonya would finally agree and see Dawn's side. But it's never going to happen. Just like Dora and my former landlord are never going to agree with me, and I am never going to agree with them. And I feel like Dawn is just opening herself up to more indignity, more disappointment, more betrayal, and more hurt feelings. My advice to Dawn: radically accept that this happened. Sonya wrote a piece mocking you, taunting you, turning you into the villain. It was mean. It wasn't right. She founded her success atop your humiliation. And it's fucked up. It is. And the best revenge is not winning in court. It's not even, like my mother suggests, success. It's being happy. If someone can humiliate you and steal from you and just be absolutely wretched toward you, and you can still find joy and happiness and not give a flying fuck about them, that is the true revenge. And the best part of happiness as revenge is that you start out doing it to prove something to someone else, but you end up doing it just for yourself and your own happiness. Kindly, Anne Marie.